Please take a moment to listen to this disclosure from the Common Ground podcast. The Common Ground podcast is dedicated to exploring commonality among individuals with diverse perspectives. Our guests may present unique worldviews related to health, psychology, and overall well-being. Please note that the Common Ground podcast does not directly promote or endorse any specific ideas, concepts, or actions discussed during our episodes. Listeners are encouraged to approach the information shared with discernment and to consult with their mental and/or physical health providers before making any changes to their health or wellness practices. The views expressed by guests and hosts are their own and do not directly reflect the opinions of the Common Ground podcast. Your well-being is important, and we advocate for informed decision-making. Thanks for listening.
I was unloading the dishwasher as I had done many times, and I was pulling the dishes out of the dishwasher, and suddenly I just snapped and started throwing the dishes, and it startled my mom because I'd never had a moment like that, and she ran over and held me, and we ended up on the floor. She just held on to me until I could calm down. And it was in that moment that I shared with her. She'd been around us, my mom lived 10 minutes away, so she'd been around us many times and was unaware of the circumstances that I was struggling with.
Right. It's almost easier to know, like, if you're going to take a position, especially dealing with somebody like that can be so manipulative in their tendencies. Not necessarily him specifically, just narcissists in general, that ability to spin the table in their favor. It's so crucial to just know where people stand, even if it's on the other side of the fence. I would rather know that you're on the other side of the fence than deal with the back and forth, to be honest with you. I really like that definition. I love that it means that coming home to yourself is the only journey where you don't pack a bag, but you unpack everything that you've been carrying.
Oh, absolutely.
That's huge, because a lot of people don't do that. You know what I mean? That's good stuff.
And some of us are hoarders.
No, dude, don't get me started. My mom was the worst. I am such a minimalist. I can't handle clutter on my countertops because of what my mom did to me in child. I can't do it. If you leave your toys out, we're not going to bed until your playroom's. I love my kids, but I can't do clutter, literally.
But we focus on physical hoarding, but do we ever focus on emotional hoarding?
Exactly.
I want to give an analogy of, you take somebody who's never worked out and you put them over next to somebody who has worked out, has some muscles and everything. You don't go from one point to the other point. You start by showing up at the gym, and you give yourself small victories. Welcome to the Common Ground podcast, where stories connect, perspectives collide, and purpose is found in the middle.
Every week, we sit down with unique and inspiring guests that come from all walks of life. People who challenge the status quo, overcome the odds, and live with intentionality.
Whether you're driving to work, on your morning walk, or just looking for that spark to ignite your week, you're in the right place.
Welcome to the Common Ground podcast with your hosts, John Fletcher and Sydney Curtin.
Welcome to another edition of the Common Ground podcast. That's right, it is your boy, Philly, also known as John Fletcher. I am here with you today, and as always, I bring the extravagant, the most beautiful Sydney Curtin. How you doing, Sydney?
Doing good, Fletcher. How you doing?
It's just a beautiful, fantastic day. So
it is a day.
It is. So I was watching Forrest Gump last night, and it dawned on me. Do you know what Forrest Gump's password is?
No.
One, Forrest, one.
This is a good movie. I haven't seen that one in a while. I can appreciate that.
I got another one for you. This one was just me and my boys just talking. If two vegetarians get into an argument, is it still called a beef?
No, I've got a different word I can think of, but I'll leave that off camera. That's pretty funny. Let us know what your favorite joke is in the comments section. Not associated with the key takeaways.
Like I said, it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Would you be mine? Would you be mine? So today with us, we are very, very glad and excited to introduce to you Miss Regina Hiremath. She has a journey who went from severe childhood trauma to a 23-year narcissistic marriage, and finally into freedom, healing, and self-reclamation. She reveals what it truly means to return home to yourself, a place she calls Onesome. If you've ever wondered why certain patterns repeat or how to break them, this episode is for you. She is for you. Let me introduce to you Miss Regina Hiremath. How you doing today?
I'm fine. Thank you, John.
Regina, it's so good to have you. This is a topic that is so near and dear to so many people. Just not just dealing with narcissists, but this undiscovered, almost taboo topic of narcissistic blindness. And I think that when you are a narcissistic survivor, you tend to get into this pattern of almost gaslighting yourself, a very common characteristic that we see in narcissists. We do it to ourselves, and it becomes well, are we the crazy one? Am I overthinking this? Did I do something that triggered these effects? And so I really love our topic today because it strays not just into the marriage that you survived, which of course we'll get into as well, but our title today is Narcissistic Blindness. And that is such a powerful subject for today's interview. And I want to ask you, take us to the beginning of what your childhood looked like. What did little Regina need that she didn't get that then transformed what your relationships looked like as an adult?
Right. So early on in my life, my parents weren't able to raise me, and my grandmother took me in. Unfortunately, when I was in first grade, she passed away from cancer. I was sent back to live with my mom, who was ill equipped to take care of herself, let alone a child. And so, because of that, I suffered lots of abuse from her and from the people around her. Um, and that made me feel unseen and unloved. And so, I went through my childhood, my teen years, early adulthood, still feeling unseen and unloved, and certainly not having any self love.
Yeah. And that's really hard for kids to understand too. Like specifically when you grow up with adults that have these narcissistic tendencies, and I'm speaking from first person perspective, and so I want you to just like help me continue this train of thought. One of the things that was really difficult for me was that I didn't understand why I didn't understand love. I couldn't bridge together what it was that I was lacking that had me working so hard to earn love rather than to just know what unconditional love was from the people that were supposed to be my trusted safe people, right? What did that look like from
Absolutely.
your childhood experience? Because it's different for all of us.
Yeah, I didn't, like you said, I didn't know what love was supposed to look like or to feel like. And so that causes you to create this sense of uh, whatever you're experiencing as love.
Mm,
You think that the people who are taking care of you are doing, something isn't right, but you feel like this is what I get,
right.
and this is the best that it can be for me, and this must be what love looks like.
Mhm. And it's almost like for me, it was that was the love that I was deserving of. So when anything greater than what I had been conditioned to believe was love came into my life, I rejected it and I tested it, ultimately pushing it away. With what you experienced as a child, how did that shape your relationships in early adolescence into early adulthood?
Well, I believe that trauma and strife and conflict just felt normal, and so when someone came into my life and they just brought that same pattern of behavior with trauma and conflict, it felt normal. And if it was slightly different, then it was better
Mhm.
somehow.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, for everybody that's listening that is is in a narcissistic relationship, or maybe is healing from wounds of narcissistic tendencies, I just want to put out there that the term narcissist in a diagnosis is often overused. But as humans, we have a tendency to worship ourselves if we do not establish a higher power in our life. So if you don't subscribe to a faith that is bigger than yourself, some of these tendencies are very, very normal in human behavior. But sometimes the wounds that we normalize as kids become the prison cells that we walk into as adults. And that is just something that I want to put out there. It is almost like a blindfold that we don't really know how to heal from until we've identified those things. And nobody warns you as a child that familiar doesn't necessarily mean safe.
That's a great point. I do want to go back for 1 second. You said you lived with your grandmother for a year before she died, correct?
It was about maybe 2 years. I think I moved, we relocated out of state, built a home when I was about 4. And then when I was in first grade, she passed away from cancer.
Do you remember a lot of your time with her?
Oh, I do. Very much so. It was very, it, it was the establishment of love in my life that as I was writing my book, I was able to see. And it wasn't until that point that I was writing about her and that period of my life that I understood that that was my foundation of love from like 4 till about 7. And I remember, 'cause she was a department store seamstress. So my clothes were made, beautiful dresses and outfits, and even I remember having a swimsuit that she made for me, and it wasn't until I was writing the book that I realized that I have an outfit, shorts and a top, that was embroidered just like that swimsuit, and I remember thinking about it, running to my closet and grabbing it and thinking, "Oh my gosh, this is very similar to the swimsuit that she made for me." But it was a very loving time that I look back on fondly and believe that it was a guiding light to me finding love within myself again because that was my establishment of love. Mm.
I asked that because I feel like I'm trying to put myself into your situation. Here you are, you have a normal or a good relationship, and a relationship that's having impact on you. You're at that young age, and it's kind of taken away from you.
Yes.
Did you feel that maybe you were not worthy of having a good relationship because you were, I know how sometimes children perceive things. Well, it must be my fault. Like I don't deserve this kind of relationship. I only deserve the relationship that I'm going back into, which is not good, which is not, you know, not beneficial to me. Like maybe I deserve it. Maybe I did something wrong. Did any of those kind of feelings come through you, or were you
I
able to
think
say this was a good relationship and circumstances just happened?
I think it wasn't until I was writing the book that I was able to look back on everything because there was so much trauma and so many things that I had to just tuck away and keep moving because I was constantly in survival mode. So it wasn't until I paused all the trauma and began the work of therapy, healing, and then writing the book became that final piece of my healing because I was able to sit down and look at how it all unfolded and how I got into that marriage and stayed in there as long as I did. Mhm.
So So if you didn't realize that till afterwards, you probably my next question was going to be like, did you see things in other families or other people that you desired, or it's like this isn't how my family handles stuff. Either you could have had anger issues towards it because, why are you doing things differently than how I have to deal with it? Or was it something that maybe you resonated to draw closer to because you wanted that kind of love and acceptance in your life that you were missing? Did Are you saying you didn't realize any of that till later, or did you realize some of that?
I realized that those, things were happening, but I couldn't see the full scope of it
Mhm.
until I wrote the book. And there were definitely families. I write about um, the situations that occurred in my life where I did receive love and acceptance. And there were people who were placed on my path along the way who gave me a sense of hope and an ability to continue on in life. And for those people and situations, I'm eternally grateful for.
Absolutely. And people don't stay in these relationships because they're weak or because they don't necessarily recognize it. They stay in it because trauma teaches you to call chaos home. It's like it feels uncomfortable to be in normal, just, I guess, I was gonna use the word complacency. That's not what I meant. Contentment. That feels abnormal. Contentment feels almost chaotic. It's like the inverse, right? Where when you have
Yeah.
survived trauma, your brain is like, something should be wrong right now. Like my
Mm.
nervous system isn't in
Yeah.
fight or flight, which is putting me in fight or flight. It's like we seek that out because it's
Right.
more familiar.
Right.
So my question to you is, before you started writing the book, what was the moment in your life where you realized this isn't normal? This is trauma repeating itself in different forms of these relationships.
Um, I think it was the dishwasher incident. I had just gone through life taking one hit after the next. And at one point in my marriage, I was unloading the dishwasher and my mom was visiting, and I started to throw the dishes. And that was when I realized that I was on overload and that something had to be done. That I had to acknowledge there was an issue and then seek help. That was the moment that I that that I was confronted with, and I could no longer just sweep it aside and keep going.
If you're comfortable, I want to ask you if you're willing to go deeper there, because I think that a lot of people in these types of relationships tend to overlook these, what some might call, little moments. For you, that was a big moment because that was a turning point for you. Something as simple as unloading the dishwasher or loading the dishwasher that then escalated into this groundbreaking moment where it was an epiphany and a realization within yourself, I can't do this anymore. Can you share what happened in that moment that helped you connect those dots?
Um, and I was unloading the dishwasher as I had done many times, and I was pulling the dishes out of the dishwasher, and suddenly I just snapped and started throwing the dishes, and it startled my mom because I'd never had a moment like that, and she ran over and held me, and we ended up on the floor. She just held on to me until I could calm down. And it was in that moment that I shared with her. She'd been around us, my mom lived 10 minutes away. So she'd been around us many times and was unaware of the circumstances that I was struggling with, being married to a narcissist for nearly 20, nearly 15 to 20 years at that time. And I just, I tumbled down with those dishes. I was very frustrated, not being able to open up and share with anyone who could understand. And even when I did share it with my mom, and she was, as understanding as she could be, she was also confused about what it was that I was saying and what it was that she had seen. So that was two completely different
Right.
stories what she knew to be true by what she could see and feel being around versus what it was that I was now saying. Mom, I'm in an abusive situation, financially, emotionally, and verbally. And cannot, I cannot continue on this way. I'm losing myself. And it was a challenge for her to understand that. And I had to think quickly, how can I get my mom closer to understanding it in this moment with me and have her really understand? And instantly I jumped up, I picked up my phone, and I opened up the text messages from my husband to show my mom the things that he had just said about her in the last day or two that did not correlate with the way he treated her. And it was like the light somewhat came on for her to see that, yes, this is a completely different person than who I know. And I'm showing her some negative things that he had said about her.
Thank you for sharing that moment. I appreciate it. I know that those are like difficult moments to talk about, but I think that it's relevant for people because a lot of people in moments like that get accused of being the crazy ones, right? And I'm not saying that there is not responsibility both ways because a relationship is a two-way street. But when you're dealing with somebody that has these tendencies, I think that just being really open and vulnerable is so valuable to so many people that are going through this narcissistic blindness and don't know how to identify it. So that
Right,
moments like what you just described, where he wasn't even physically present, can hopefully help make sense of those moments to
right,
others listening.
right, right. And that was the beginning because within a short span of time, he was able to sway her again. He had a conversation with her after that where he was accusing me of being a bad wife, a bad mother, and my mom came to me and was going to have a discussion with me about how I could be better. And I had to just tell her, I really, really, it is so important for me right now for you to understand what it is that I'm saying to you and what I'm showing you. And I need you to make a decision about what side of the fence you're going to be on.
Mhm.
And I need you to make that right now. Because from this point forward, I need you to take a stance and I need to know what that is.
Right. It's almost easier to know, like, if you're going to take a position, especially dealing with somebody like that can be so manipulative in their tendencies. Not necessarily him specifically, just narcissists in general, that ability to spin the table in their favor. It's so crucial to just like know where people stand, even if it's on the other side of the fence. I would rather know that you're on the
I
other side of
gotta
the fence
know.
than deal with the back and forth, to be honest with you. Like, and I'll forgive you because this is not, because I went through this, right? So it's not that I hold this against you. It's just that I got to know where you're choosing to be so that I don't waste my emotional time and energy when it's already so strained.
I need to act accordingly based upon your decision. Because if you're with me, I can share things with you and I can tell you what's happening with me. And
Mm,
if you've chosen the other side, then we have to stop talking
hmm.
because I have to get better. I have to get better. I have to heal and I have to move on. But I have to know that the people who are in this boat with me are not drilling holes.
Right, right. Yes.
As I listen to you speak, and I know Sydney's had experience with this, I've had experience with this, to go and show you that it happens with both sexes. Um, but the person who is receiving it from the narcissist, what I felt from you and what it took me back to was like being in a prison. I felt like I was in a prison. Like you can't get out of it. Nobody's going to believe you. You know, you can
Hostage.
say you're innocent, you didn't commit the crime, but everybody looks at you and goes, "You're in prison. You committed the crime." You like that's how it feels to be on the opposite end of a narcissist, because they are very good with their words. They very well know how to manipulate things. And it's really tough because, and we haven't talked about this even in our meetings before. So I wonder, do you have faith, and what role did faith play in your journey through this?
Um, as a child, I went to church every Sunday and did not. I love going to church because it was a break from the house. And if you've ever been around a manipulative or narcissistic person, they're completely different on the outside. And you get a reprieve for that time that you're out until you come back. But I definitely, I grew up Christian and was in church every week, sometimes a few times a week. But there were times when I can remember praying and asking God to take my life as a child because the trauma that I was experiencing was extremely difficult for me to live through. And I'm grateful that I'm still here.
And I ask that because I I in mine, I have faith, and my faith kept me in the relationship, thinking that, well, there was two aspects. It was like, why would God allow me to get into this relationship, and B, if he allowed me to get into it, it's because I have a responsibility to do something, and I'm going to change this person because that's why he has me with this person. And
Okay.
I think I've come to the realization is that God didn't call me into a relationship with a narcissist. I'm the one who walked into that relationship with a narcissist, and which I didn't know she was a narcissist before, um but God wasn't calling me to change her, and uh I say this because if you're in here listening to this episode and you're like, well, I know what you're saying about narcissism. I know what you're saying about, feeling like you're in a prison, but, God has a bigger plan for me, Um, he doesn't want you in a relationship where somebody's tearing you apart. It's breaking his heart. And it took me a long time to get out of my relationship because I I feared disappointing God. And so I just don't want anybody to feel like if they feel the need to get out that they're disappointing God. You're disappointing God by staying in there.
What helped me was when I understood that um, God is loving and forgiving. And there is scripture in the Bible that supports the notion that we can only serve one God. So if we're serving a narcissist, because that's what you're doing, there's an inability to serve God. And I remember at one point being in my church, and the irony was that I was head of the couples ministry.
Mm.
And at one point, I was having very much success with the events that I was planning and things that I was putting together for the couples. But because it was another thing that I was successful at and was getting me a lot of attention, he wanted me to stop doing it. And so I stopped doing it and I stopped serving in my purpose at my church. And, later on, some years later, I realized you can't, you know, we're told that God is God and we have one God that we serve. And so, therefore, you can't serve a narcissist and God at the same time because one of them is God and one of them thinks they're God.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a
Doesn't
really,
work.
really, it's a really powerful point because I think I struggle with that too. So I kind of want to ask both of you this because you guys are both in a situation where you've walked away from these relationships. And I'm not in a narcissistic marriage, but I am in a relationship with a close person with me who has these tendencies. And it's something that I constantly struggle with because this person in my life is somebody that I've always looked to for approval. So what was the how do you draw a line with somebody that has narcissistic tendencies that you still want to maintain a relationship with, or can you not? Is that a rhetorical question in that sense? Starting with you,
Boundaries,
Regina.
boundaries. If you're going to be in a relationship with a narcissist or a manipulative person, you have to set boundaries based upon what is good for your life. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. And you have to let them know what they are. And then you have to stand on business and not back down from those boundaries. And those type of people, they do not do well with
I
boundaries
know.
and will make you feel like you are harming them in some way because you're trying to protect yourself, but you
Mhm,
can't protect yourself and allow harm to come to you at the same time. So if a person doesn't respect my boundaries, with what I say and what I have laid out, then they don't respect me and they don't deserve to be in my life because at this stage in my life, I'm living in peace and happiness. And if something comes to destroy that, it must go because I don't ever want to go back to a place in my life where somebody else is in control and I feel like I want to die.
That's a really tough one for me. Um, because again, my faith, you know, is somewhere I struggle with. Um, I can't have a relationship right now with my ex because she won't respect boundaries. She'll send the kids to destroy the boundaries. Um, it it just isn't going to work.
mhm,
Um, the one thing I would say to you, and it was, and I can only say it because Regina brought it to me, like the serving one God. I'm going to turn that around to you and be like, you only need approval of one person and one God, and that is God, and not the approval of someone who's going to make you feel like crap to get that approval. Um, but my struggle is with what Regina said because I agree with you, but at the same time, I I I don't know how to handle it. Um, and that is, I agree, like to like to be like you. I'm not going to be around you. I'm not going to. I I'm like, but what if God, like God calls me to love every single person, you know? And how the real fine line is, how do I love my ex? And when I say love, I don't mean the romantic love. I
mhm,
mean in the godly love.
Hmm.
How do I love her and show her respect, but yet still keep the distance and the boundaries because she isn't going to return that love? And where I look at it and where my my struggle is if I'm totally honest, that's where we are with God. God loves us unconditionally, and we spit upon him constantly. Yet, he has never given up on us. He has never forsaken us. He has never rejected us. He actually went and sent his son to die for us. So how do I show that same love to my ex? And that's the tough part for me.
It's my belief that we have, I know people that live halfway around the world, and I love them, yet I don't see them. Um, Another point is that you have healed from your abuse and trauma with someone when you can set them free and still love them, meaning I don't wish any harm to come to you. I don't want anything bad to happen to you. If I have the ability to do something, for you at a distance, if it's something that does not compromise my peace, my well-being in my life, then I'm fine and I can, let's say it was a GoFundMe for someone, I can, donate and I can wish the best for you, but I can't interact with you because you're going to push me to a place of dishonoring you and myself in the process. And I can't I can't do that. So there are different ways to love and respect people. And that does not mean you come into my home that I have to hug you or anything like that. Because we have the ability to love people halfway around the world that we're not in contact with. But we don't open the door and let the homeless people or the burglar in to harm us because we're supposed to love. Yeah, I love you from in here, but the door is locked, you know, stay out because I cannot suffer any more trauma because, and this was the thing that I realized, I was designed with a purpose in mind. All of us, every single one of us has a purpose that we were designed for. And by interacting with certain people and situations, it can destroy that purpose in a season that somebody waited on us to be there to help them to do something for them. But because we've been interacting with these manipulative people who have destroyed our mental well-being and thrown us off track, there were people's lives who weren't affected
Mhm.
because we weren't in position. So that's also another way to look at it. I can't be in position to serve out my purpose by allowing certain people to enter in and do harm to me.
Do want
And I
to say,
think that that's what it is, though, is because like it has to be, or at least for me anyways, it's about that heart position to be able to do what the Lord is calling you to do. And only when it interferes with that does it make sense for me, because we're not called to be happy as believers. And I hate to break that to anybody listening, but like life isn't about happiness. That's not why we're here. We're not called as believers to be comfortable. As a matter of fact, I was more comfortable before I had to confess that I am not my own God and start living for something bigger than me. And so I think that that's where people, especially people that have a background of faith, get stuck in like, where is the line then where I get to say that this is not what God has for me, not because of my happiness, but because it's interfering with the purpose that I'm being called to. Does that make sense?
yeah, and I want
Right.
to, but I want to say one thing though too. I believe every time that there's separation in the Bible, separation comes with the purpose of reconciliation. So I think that with that, you can't like totally just close off the person. You
Oh,
know,
no.
you want to, what God's love is a reconciliation love. It's a,
Right.
I can't, listen, God cannot interact with sin. He is holy. He sin and God cannot be in the same place. It's not possible, which is why reconciliation had to happen through his son. But it's always a story of reconciliation. It's always like God can, once you're reconciled, God can be with you again. So we have to, I believe, have that same attitude with the narcissist is, listen, if you can reconcile, if you can fix and deal with your problems, you are more
Respect
welcome.
my boundaries.
Respect my boundaries. You are welcome back in here. But I think a lot of people go, oh, I've cut you off. You're cut off for good. I don't care if you change or not. You're never in my life again. And I don't think that's what God calls us to do.
Sure.
But
We're
this is,
told to forgive, to forgive again and again and again.
Yeah.
and this is great, but I do want to get back on topic. I know I took us off topic, but I wanted to get us back because I do want to talk about Onesome. And what is Onesome? Can you define it for us? Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, so I've been writing the book for some time and was hoping that the title would come early on during the writing. But it wasn't until the latter part of the book that the title came to me, Lessons on the Way to Onesome. And my book consultant challenged me to define onesome. And I knew what it meant to me in my heart, but it took me some time to kind of formulate a definition of it. And it is onesome, noun, the journey back to oneself, a destination that one arrives at once one has been freed from the confines of life and has made the necessary transformations. Onesome is not a feeling of loneliness, but rather a feeling of being home within oneself.
Hmm. I really like that definition. I love
Thank you.
that it means that coming home to yourself is the only journey where you don't pack a bag, but you unpack everything that you've been carrying.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Like that's huge because a lot of people don't do that. You know what I mean? Like that's good stuff.
And some of us are hoarders.
No, dude, don't get me started. My mom was the worst. Like, I am such a minimalist. Like, I can't handle clutter on my countertops because of what my mom did to me in child. Like, I can't do it. If you leave your toys out, like, we're not going to bed until your playroom's. I love my kids, but like, I can't do clutter, literally.
But we focus on physical hoarding, but do we ever focus on
Exactly.
emotional hoarding?
Exactly. Yeah. No, and that's what I love about what you said, but it's the truth. Like and I think that there's a correlation though. Like you can tell a lot
Yes.
about what's going on in somebody's mind by the state of their physical home. Like where they reside says so much about, and even if you go into a neat freak's home, because I'm watching John's wheels turn right now. Like I have been in people's house that are OCD, but it's a control thing. It doesn't mean that their mind is clean. It doesn't mean that they're not collecting that emotional clutter or that they've been through the process of unpacking. It means that their basement is storage and everything that you see on the surface level is how they want to present to the world. And that correlation is really powerful. So I absolutely love the definition of onesome. What's the name of your book?
Lessons on the Way to Onesome.
Hmm, love that. What's the
Yeah.
hardest part about onesome? Is it facing the pain or facing the truth?
Number one, it's acknowledging that you're somewhere else, that you are not, that you're not at home within yourself. And then recognizing that you need help of some sort. whether it's to start reading self-help books, seeking therapy, doing some sort of therapeutic, deep healing work, whatever the case may be for you, um, seek that type of help and run into it, run with it, and do the necessary work so that one day you wake up and realize you're back home with yourself and you're comfortable and you don't need anyone or anything to make you feel complete. It's a powerful um it's a powerful state, a powerful place to be.
Where's the room for faith in Onesome? Because what I heard you say is you don't need anyone or anything. So I want to clarify based on what the topic that
I
we
just
kind of just
I
ended.
just mean you don't need a partner, you don't need a family member, you don't need another person,
Materialistic, like,
right?
okay.
Yeah, you don't need another person. Um, but if you're uh if you're strong in your faith and you utilize the tools like in Christianity, just the mindset of serving one God. I can't serve another person because I'm serving God. God says that I am, that He made me and He knows the amount of hairs on my head.
Mm,
If you utilize the teachings within your faith to support the work that you're doing, then you're going to be, um, utilizing your faith to help you heal in
mm,
those places. Because a lot of the stuff that we go through in manipulation contradicts what the word says.
mm.
Now, when you're saying you don't need anybody, you're not talking about like therapy. You're talking about what you don't need is somebody to make you feel whole, correct?
Right, right. There's a lot of times when people go through personal struggles and conflict, they want other people around them to make them feel safe. And there's
Right.
nothing wrong with because you don't want to isolate, but you don't also want to jump from the need of having a narcissistic partner and then go cling
Right.
to someone else
Yeah.
How
because
does
it's about discovering who you are when you are stripped down and you look in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
how does somebody else play, whether it's a therapist, whether it's a good friend, in developing oneself?
Um, because like in therapy, it was crucial for me to recognize that I had created this situation, that my childhood wounds and my past wounds and traumas opened the door to all of the situations that came into my life from teenage to present day.
Yeah.
um, you have to recognize your shortcomings and create a plan for how you're going to move forward and not lean on the typical crutches. You want to build a system of empowerment and not leaning on other people and think the things of your past, all the crutches you use to get around.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm.
I feel like a lot of people feel like they can heal themselves. And what I say to you is if you stand if you have a sock in the middle of your back and you stand at a mirror and you look at it all day long, you're never going to see the sock on your back, right? You need somebody from behind you who can see the sock on your back and say, "Yo, you have a sock on the back." We can't see everything about our lives, A lot of people are afraid to go to therapy or think that therapy is just going to lead them down to daddy issues or whatever. But finding that someone to talk to really get a different perspective. What therapy should be is a different perspective on your life, not them trying to dissect you, but to show
Right.
you this is
Right.
this is how you're really dressed. I know you see yourself this way, but this is the reality. You've been carrying this black stinky sock on the back of your back
Why
for
did you
days.
choose a sock on the back?
I
Is
don't
it
know.
like a monster? Is that a Monsters Inc. reference? Like, we got a 2319. That's like all I'm seeing is because I've got young kids. Like, I just watched that the other day. So
Right.
Because it was something
Right.
small enough that you couldn't see in the mirror in my head, you know?
oh, that's funny. I like it.
Right. I think that for me, therapy was a huge mirror,
Mm.
um, because we tend to see ourselves and the people around us in a certain way that is when we find ourselves in traumatic situations. We've been viewing things with a different lens, and therapy is like a mirror.
Like 3D versus 2D, which we see in ourselves. We see 2D in
Yeah.
ourselves, but therapy is 3D. It goes, oh, wow, there's a whole nother.
Right. There's a lot going on here that I need to unpack, that I need to acknowledge my part in, because blaming another person is not beneficial to us in the long run. Yes, people did things to us, but out of our own traumas and wounds that we carry, we open the door to those people and situations. And so it's best to rewrite a path or a course for us going forward by looking at the past.
I like what both of you said too. It's like people think that healing is about like recreating yourself, I guess is like that's kind of what at least what I've heard in my coaching, a lot of people saying like I'm ready to recreate, who I am, or even discover is another word that's used a lot, but it's healing isn't about becoming someone new. It's about like peeling off the layers of trauma that disguised they were a guise of strength. And it never was. It was just defense mechanisms that were built up. What we're trying to do is like knock down those walls to get to the core of who Sydney is, Regina is, John is. And that's like a very common misconception that I see when I coach. But how do you teach somebody that's only ever been in survival how to recognize peace?
Question.
They have to tear it down. Like in my book I talk about I you have to dismantle every mask that you use to disguise your pain. Every shield of protection, it all has to come down. It all has to come down, because you are with that mask and the shield, you have disguised your own pain, and all of it has become normal, and it's heavy, and we carry it and we continue, and something else happens and we add that on. But all of that deception and pain has to be stripped away so that we get to the essence of who we are, discover what it is that we need to do in order to live out our purpose and calling.
I I want to give an analogy of, you know, you take somebody who's never worked out and you put them over next to somebody who has worked out, has the muscles and everything. You don't go from one point to the other point. You start by showing up at the gym and you give yourself small victories. You give yourself, oh, let me do this step, right? My goal isn't just to have my end goal is the muscles, but I give myself victories because we're all the human mind, the human personality is victory driven. When as soon as you give me a victory, I want more. I want more, right? So that's what you have to do with overcoming like a narcissist and desiring that peace. Just give me a little bit of peace. And when I experience a little bit of that peace, I go, man, I want more of that peace. And then I experience a little more peace in my life. And it's like, and what happens is that peace starts to become desirable and more desirable. And I want more of it. So at that point, you weren't ready to tackle the narcissist in the beginning, but once you've started to feel peace in different aspects of your life where you've slowly regained victories over, you're like,
Mhm.
I want more of this. I want the rest of my life to feel peace. And to bring it back to faith real quick is like that's what is why Christianity is so powerful is because that peace of God, right? So what makes a Christian uh, different than somebody, and somebody goes, why are you behaving differently? Because I got the peace of God. And when you get a little piece of God, you want more of that peace of God. And that peace of God can allow you to go through some of the most horrible things because you've experienced that peace. And that's what that peace in your life versus a narcissism is doing the same type of thing, but just in a different level.
Mhm. Right. I think that, like you said, John, you you start to experience peace and a different peace and healing is different than peace and survival mode. Peace and survival mode meant going in the bathroom and closing the door and locking it.
Hmm.
But peace now to me is just walking in my home, sitting in my car, being at work, and knowing that I'm in control. Just something so simple. I'm in control. No one is ruling over me, and I haven't given my control to someone else to manage. I'm in charge here.
What was the first day that you felt safe after leaving? Like, what made that moment real for you?
Um, I I came into my home with an air mattress and 5 bags of personal items, and I went to sleep. In my room, I had no curtains or anything, and I remember falling asleep in my house, in my room. No one had any negativity to say to me, and fell asleep so peacefully. And when I woke up in the morning, I was um, in bed facing the window, and the sun was shining on my face. And it was just like the most calming, peaceful moment I had experienced in such a long time because I woke up in my home at peace, the sun shining on my face, and I was going to get up and start my day from a place of peace. Amazing. I can remember it like it was yesterday. I can still feel the sun on my face and the joy that I felt.
Wow, time flies by. This episode has really been very interesting. I've enjoyed this whole conversation. But just to start to wrap things up, if Regina could go back to present day, Regina can go back to any point in her life and have a conversation with her. What point would she go back into her life and what would she say to herself?
I would probably go back to 7-year-old Regina and say, "You're amazing. You are going to go through a lot of things, but there is something so powerful inside of you that is going to guide you through all of these challenges that you're going to face in life. And that very strength and tenacity and courage um, is what you're going to use to walk away from everything that you're going to experience. And then you're going to take that same strength and use it to help other people.
Awesome. So you've written your book. What's next for you? What's next for Regina? What do you have on store?
Oh, I'm currently writing a workbook for Onesome because I've been asked to do some workshops. So the workbook is going to be a very big piece of what I do because this year I got certified in life coaching and I want to do group sessions and workshops.
Awesome. We look forward to that.
Key takeaways.
I guess my key takeaway from today is um that life is a journey. We don't have full control, but we do have control over how we respond to it. And to seek help, to if you're in a position where you don't like where your life is at, to get some help, talk to somebody and pursue. um I love this idea of oneself, that is that should be our ultimate goal, is to really not need anybody. I think it's so funny, we didn't even talk, like, I love the oneself so much. Like, so many people like feel like they need a relationship to feel whole, and that's not even what we were talking about today. But you should be able to feel, if you're not oneself, then you're not relationship ready anyway.
Yeah.
Because you're going into another relationship with trauma, with that baggage, with that hoarding emotionally, um, because you haven't done the work. I find that when individuals are oneself, they can find like that almost true love if they find another oneself person, because then you get to focus on how, not only you're not looking for that other person to make you feel whole. You already feeling it whole. Now you get to come together and develop something even more beautiful. But I love the concept of oneself. Is something I think people should strive for. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Onesome stole mine. I think that mine is that patterns will continue to repeat themselves until your pain becomes louder than your denial.
mm,
And that's a hard place to meet, especially when you've got a really, really high pain tolerance. Like I've got a really high pain tolerance. I tolerate a lot before I reach a breaking point. So that's a tough realization. But narcissistic blindness is not weakness. It's childhood survival tactics that are masking themselves. We're just wearing adult clothing. Like what we're doing is we're kids that, like, we had to create these tendencies in ourselves to survive the trauma that we couldn't fight at that age. And now we're doing those same things. We're just adults now. And being able to recognize that for what it is in a gentle way. It doesn't mean we're critiquing the inner child in us that hasn't recognized that trauma, but being able to address that with the gentleness that that inner child needs is what is ultimately going to break the cycle, so that we don't have to get to that threshold of where the pain has to be so great that it just exceeds the denial. Like, I don't want people to get to that point of the point that I originally made about patterns having to repeat themselves until the pain is greater than the denial. If we can come to a point in ourselves where we can recognize that this is my inner child that created these defense mechanisms in myself to protect myself, and now I have the ability to be the person that I needed as a child. Like, I am who I needed as a little girl to protect me. And I didn't have me then, but I have me now. And what would I do for little Sydney? And I want like everybody listening to ask themselves that same question. If you relate in any point of this conversation to anything that you're going through, like what do you possess as an adult now, that you needed as a little kid, and how can you meet your own needs? How can you meet that little version of you's needs? That's my key takeaway, other than Onesome, which is a phenomenal concept as well. So, and Regina, if you had a mic drop moment, if you want our listeners to take away a key takeaway from today's episode, which was packed with so much good stuff that it's really hard to boil it down to one, but give me something.
Okay. So I'll just leave the listener, the viewers with because I have a divorce blog, I get up every morning and the first thing I do is create a meme and a message, the morning motivation. And one of them that I did that sticks with me all the time and encompasses, my life, my story, and what I'm doing now is when life throws lemons at you, place them in a vase and call it decor. Just go ahead and bundle up all of that trauma and turn it into something so beautiful that becomes a gift to the world.
Beautiful.
I dig it.
So, yeah, as you're unpacking, and getting rid of stuff, now you have some stuff to replace it with. That's nice decor.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
We call it repurposed crap.
Right.
That's
Right.
funny.
Turn what was meant for something negative into something positive and utilize that not only for your life, but for everyone
see,
around you.
now I just can't get a picture of a little baby Sydney playing with a vase of lemons.
I got yelled at for touching the decor. My dad owned a furniture store. I wasn't allowed to touch the decor. I wasn't allowed to. It was breakable and expensive.
So, this is a time where we would love for you to comment what your takeaway is from it. We love hearing what's meant the most to you about this episode. And so please do that.
The final 5.
So, Regina, I'm going to start off with, who was your hero and why?
Who is my hero? Um, when I think about it, recently, it is my grandma.
Mm.
It's such a short span of time that I spent with her. I am realizing more and more how much love and attention that she poured into me and gave me a foundation and love that never seemed as if it left me, but it never really did. So I'm grateful for Mildred Alvey Johnson.
Hey, that's like my maiden last name. My maiden last name is Johnston with a T. I like it. I like it. Okay. If you had a billboard for 24 hours, I was going to say on I-25, but you're not from Colorado. So if you had a billboard on the major highway in your state or your area, what would it say?
It would say, Onesome, live your best life.
I like it. And then like with a link to your book, like a giant QR code people can scan so that we can know. Yeah, absolutely.
So you can get the book, the ebook,
yeah.
audio version.
All of the merch, like we're gonna create a logo, like all of it, the whole line, apparel line
Right.
and all for
Right.
Onesome. Yeah, all right.
Right.
All right.
We even have candles.
See, we just made a brand. That's great.
I think there should be a vase of lemons, so that's all I gotta say.
It should the picture should be her holding a
No.
vase of lemons. That's
I'm
like
just thinking about how when I go out to speak now, that might be one of my little props that
just a
people
lemon.
are trying to figure, like a jar of lemons, and it's on the podium or sitting somewhere, and people see it, and
They're like,
maybe
what's
then
up
at
with
the
the
end,
lemons? Like, what's up with
yeah, I
Regina and the
explain
lemons?
that.
Yeah. I like it.
So, what is one book, not called Onesome, one quote, verse, saying, or song, or anything that you live by or has meant the most to you?
I loved, I can't think of the title of it at this moment. There was, Viola Davis, the actress. She wrote a book, detailing it's a memoir, and it was a lot of trauma and abuse in her household. And throughout the book, she shares um, very gruesome details of the abuse that her mother suffered at the hands of her father. And near the end of the book, she talks about how one day her dad just changed and he became like this amazing dad and grandfather. And I thought that that was just, that was beautiful to see how through all of this trauma and how uh, when he changed, it changed the entire family. So I love that.
It's heavy stuff. I don't know how I'd even take that. All right. I'm going to ask a question that I don't usually ask because usually my questions are on topic, but this episode has been heavy for me. So if you could instantly master one random skill, be it juggling, salsa, speaking Italian, what would it be?
Um, it would be from childhood. I roller skated, and I
Okay.
picked it
Yeah.
up in my 20s. I picked it up again um a couple years ago, and I've got like these baby blue suede skates. But I would love to be able to backward skate without feeling like I'm gonna fall down, without getting wobbly.
Heck yeah. That's awesome. That was one of the things that we did was we would go roller skating. There was like a spot that we could go roller skating because there wasn't a whole lot to do. And I hated going to the movies because I didn't like sitting still. And I was never great at it, but I would see these people doing all these cool tricks. So I can get on board with that.
I don't know. As soon as she said it, I was like, I can picture Regina skating on roller skates, flying around the roller skating ring for some reason.
Impress my kids with that. They were like, we went one time and they were like, Mom can skate?
Heck yeah. Mom can skate.
So, the final question is, what is one person, living or dead, you would love to sit down and have a cup of coffee with and a conversation with?
um, I, it probably goes back to my grandmother. I would love to, um, I would love to sit down and just talk with her because I feel like because she left so early, I didn't truly get to know her. And all I can go off of is memories from 7 and under. And so I would love to have a conversation with her now.
Yeah. That would be a good one. And get a clip on how to stitch and sew retail worthy clothing lines since she was just a master
Right,
at that too.
right. Can you make me some
Yeah,
can
or
you
at
make
least
me
tell me
some
how.
more
Like,
clothes?
give me, like, how'd you do it? How'd you make it so professional? Like, this is the first thing that came to mind. Well, Regina, thank you for being with us here today. For listeners who want to connect with you, read your book, join your community, how can they find you? Where should they go?
You can find me at alimonialife.com. It's alimony, but NIA life.com. It's
Awesome.
the
And we will link
blog,
that
the
below.
book. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Remember, when we take the time to hear somebody's story, it gives us the opportunity to find common ground. Regina, thank you again for being our guest today. For Sydney and myself, it has been our pleasure to be your host, and you have been listening to the Common Ground Podcast. God bless and good night.
And that's it for today's episode of the Common Ground Podcast. We hope you're leaving with a little more perspective, a little more purpose, and a whole lot more inspiration.
So thank you for joining us today. We appreciate it. Thank you to our special guest.
If today's conversation moved you, encouraged you, or challenged you in any way, don't keep it to yourself. Share it, rate it, leave us a review. Your support helps us reach more people who need to find their own common ground.
So for John Fletcher and Sydney Curtin,
we'll see you right here next week, same time, same place on the Common Ground Podcast.